Tides of Bermuda by Audrey Sinclair. The azure waters of Hamilton Harbor glittered beneath the late afternoon sun as Sophia Winters stepped onto the wooden dock. The salt-tinged breeze played with her chestnut curls, carrying with it the promise of island adventures. After 15 hours of travel from Boston, her body ached with exhaustion, but the vibrant colors of Bermuda, the pastel-hued buildings, the turquoise waters, the lush greenery, infused her with renewed energy. Sophia adjusted her oversized sunglasses and scanned the marina. Somewhere amidst the forest of gleaming yachts and fishing vessels was the boat that would take her to the private island resort where she would spend the next 2 weeks photographing a luxury travel magazine spread. "You must be Miss Winters?" a deep voice called from behind her. Sophia turned to face a tall man with sun-bronzed skin and eyes the color of the sea. His dark hair was tossed by the wind, and his white linen shirt, open at the collar, revealed a glimpse of tanned chest. He extended a calloused hand toward her. "I'm Ethan Bennett. I'll be your captain for the journey to Coral Cove Resort." Sophia hesitated before accepting his handshake. The travel agency had mentioned a boat transfer, but they hadn't specified a private charter with a captain who looked like he'd stepped out of a romance novel cover. "Nice to meet you," she replied, maintaining her professional composure despite the unexpected flutter in her stomach. "I was told the resort sent transportation, but I was expecting something more commercial." Ethan's laugh was warm and rich. "The regular ferry ended its runs an hour ago. The resort manager is an old friend who asked me to collect their tardy photographer." His eyes twinkled with amusement. "Your flight delay was quite substantial." Sophia felt her cheeks warm. "Mechanical issues in New York. Beyond my control, I assure you." "I'm not complaining." Ethan gestured toward a sleek vessel moored at the end of the dock. "The Sea Whisper and I were happy for an excuse to get out on the water this evening. The sunset promises to be spectacular." As they walked toward the boat, Sophia found herself studying Ethan's profile. There was something magnetic about his presence, a quiet confidence that drew her attention despite her determination to maintain professional boundaries. This trip was about advancing her career, not indulging in holiday romances. "Have you been to Bermuda before?" Ethan asked as he helped her aboard, his hand gentle but firm around hers. "No, this is my first visit." Sophia settled onto a cushioned bench as Ethan stowed her luggage. "But I've photographed several Caribbean islands over the past few years." "Bermuda isn't actually in the Caribbean," Ethan corrected with a smile that softened his words. "We're out in the Atlantic, about 600 miles east of North Carolina. It's a common misconception." "Clearly I should have done more research," Sophia replied, feeling like a novice despite her years of travel photography experience. Ethan untied the mooring lines with practiced efficiency. "Don't worry. Consider me your personal guide to all things Bermudian." The engine rumbled to life, and soon they were gliding across the harbor, leaving Hamilton's waterfront behind. Sophia instinctively reached for her camera bag, unwilling to miss the opportunity to capture the golden light playing across the water. "May I?" she asked, gesturing with her professional camera. "By all means. The western shores are particularly stunning this time of day." As Sophia photographed the coastline, Ethan maneuvered the boat with expert precision. She found her lens drawn to him as much as to the landscape, the way his hands moved confidently over the controls, the subtle shifts of muscles beneath his shirt, the profile of his face against the setting sun. "How long have you lived in Bermuda?" she asked, lowering her camera. "I was born here, but I left for university in the States. Spent almost a decade in New York working in finance before realizing I'd traded paradise for a prison of my own making." He adjusted their course slightly. 5 years ago, I came home to reassess and never left again." "You abandoned a finance career for boat charters?" Sophia couldn't mask her surprise. Ethan laughed. "Among other things, I own a marine conservation foundation that works to protect Bermuda's coral reefs. The charters help fund our research, plus I get to introduce people to the beauty we're working to preserve." Sophia's estimation of him rose immediately. There was substance behind the handsome exterior. "That's remarkable," she said sincerely. "The magazine I'm shooting for focuses on sustainable luxury travel. Perhaps we could discuss including your foundation in the feature." Ethan's expression brightened. "I'd like that very much." As the boat rounded a point, a small island came into view, dominated by an elegant resort nestled among palm trees. The white sand beach glowed pink in the sunset light. "Coral Cove," Ethan announced. "You're home for the next 2 weeks." The resort was even more beautiful than the photographs Sophia had studied before her trip. Exclusive and intimate, it catered to travelers seeking luxury with minimal environmental impact. "It's stunning," she murmured, already framing shots in her mind. Ethan guided the boat to a private dock extending from the beach. As they approached, a resort staff member in a crisp uniform appeared, waving in greeting. "That's Marcus, the resort manager," Ethan explained. "He'll get you settled." A sudden pang of disappointment surprised Sophia. Despite the brevity of their acquaintance, she found herself reluctant to part ways with Ethan. "Thank you for the ride," she said as he secured the boat. "And the geography lesson." "My pleasure." He handed her a business card. "Call if you'd like a tour of the island's hidden spots, places most tourists never see. Could make your magazine spread truly unique." Their fingers brushed as she accepted the card, and Sophia felt an unmistakable spark of connection. "I might take you up on that." "I hope you do." 3 days into her assignment, Sophia had established a rhythm. Mornings were spent capturing the resort's amenities in the soft dawn light, afternoons dedicated to photographing nearby attractions, and evenings reviewing and editing the day's work. Despite the idyllic surroundings and the professional satisfaction of creating beautiful images, she found her thoughts repeatedly drifting to Ethan. His business card sat on her bedside table, a temptation she had thus far resisted. On the 4th morning, as she photographed sunrise yoga on the beach, Marcus approached her with a message. "Ms. Winters, we've arranged for you to visit the Cathedral Cave system this afternoon. It's one of our most popular excursions. The light there is otherworldly. Perfect for your feature." "That sounds wonderful. Who will be my guide?" Marcus smiled knowingly. "Ethan Bennett has offered his services. His foundation has been instrumental in preserving the cave ecosystem. There's no one better to show you around." Sophia's pulse quickened traitorously. "I see. What time should I be ready?" "He'll meet you at the dock at 1 o'clock. The hours until their meeting passed with agonizing slowness. Sophia told herself her anticipation was purely professional. Ethan's expertise would undoubtedly enhance her work. But the extra care she took with her appearance belied that rationalization. At precisely 1 o'clock, she arrived at the dock to find Ethan waiting. He wore navy shorts and a light blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms tanned from countless hours under the Bermudian sun. "You came," he said, his smile warming his eyes. Marcus was quite persuasive about the photographic opportunities at the caves. "And here I thought it might be the company," Ethan teased, helping her aboard the Sea Whisper. Their journey to the caves took them along Bermuda's southern coastline, a rugged landscape of limestone cliffs and hidden coves. Ethan pointed out landmarks and shared stories of the island's history, from its accidental discovery by shipwrecked English sailors to its modern identity as a business hub and tourist destination. "You'd make an excellent tour guide," Sophia commented as they anchored near a secluded beach. "Only for certain clients." The look he gave her carried weight, an unspoken acknowledgement of the connection between them. They swam from the boat to the beach, Sophia's underwater camera secured in a waterproof bag. The Cathedral Cave entrance was partially submerged, a narrow opening in the cliff face that revealed its wonders only to those willing to venture beyond the obvious. "Stay close," Ethan advised as they entered the cool darkness. "The pathway can be tricky until we reach the main chamber." Sophia followed him through the narrow passage, hyper-aware of his proximity in the confined space. After several minutes of careful navigation, the passage widened dramatically into a vast chamber illuminated by shafts of sunlight penetrating from small openings in the ceiling. "Oh," Sophia breathed, momentarily forgetting her camera as she took in the spectacle. The sunbeams struck the crystal-clear pool at the cave's center, creating patterns of refracted light that danced across the ancient limestone walls. "Worth the journey?" Ethan asked softly, standing close beside her. "Beyond words." She turned to him, finding his face mere inches from hers, his eyes reflecting the mystical blue light of the cave. For a moment, the air between them seemed charged with possibility. Ethan cleared his throat and stepped back slightly. "You should get those photographs while the light is perfect. It shifts quickly this time of day." Grateful for the reminder of her purpose, Sophia immersed herself in her work, capturing the ethereal beauty of the cave from every angle. Ethan waited patiently, occasionally suggesting positions or pointing out particularly striking formations. After she'd exhausted the photographic potential of the main chamber, Ethan led her through a series of smaller connected caves, each with its own distinct character. In the last and most secluded, tiny bioluminescent organisms glowed in the water, creating a galaxy of blue-green stars. "This is magical," Sophia whispered, reluctant to disturb the tranquility of the space. They sat side by side on a smooth rock ledge, their feet dangling in the luminous water. "Thank you for showing me this place. Few people know about this particular chamber. I come here sometimes when I need to remember why I gave up my former life. Sophia studied his profile in the gentle glow. Do you ever regret it, leaving your career in finance? Not for a moment, Ethan replied without hesitation. Though my parents thought I'd lost my mind. They'd sacrificed so much to give me opportunities beyond Bermuda, only to have me return, and in their eyes, throw it all away. But you found your purpose. Yes. He turned to look at her. What about you? Did you always know you wanted to be a photographer? Sophia laughed softly. Hardly. I was pre-law at Boston University, following the path my father had mapped out for me. Photography was just a hobby until my senior year, when a professor saw some of my work and encouraged me to submit it to a student exhibition. What happened? A travel magazine editor saw the exhibition and offered me a small assignment. I took a semester off to pursue it, much to my father's dismay. She traced patterns in the glowing water with her fingertips. That semester turned into a year, then another. Eventually, I had to admit to myself that I'd found my calling, even if it wasn't the one I'd been raised to expect. And your father? He came around eventually. Seeing me fulfilled in my work helped, and having my photographs published in prestigious magazines didn't hurt. She smiled at the memory. The first time he saw my work on a magazine cover, he bought 20 copies and sent them to everyone he knew. Ethan's laughter echoed softly in the chamber. Parental pride is a powerful force. Indeed. And yours? Have they reconciled themselves to your career change? My father passed away 2 years ago, Ethan said quietly. But before he died, he told me he was proud of what I'd built here. My mother helps with the Foundation's educational programs now. She's become our most passionate advocate. Sophia placed her hand over his in a gesture of comfort. I'm sorry about your father. Thank you. Ethan turned his hand to intertwine their fingers. The simple contact sent warmth spreading through Sophia's body. They remained like that for several minutes, connected in the luminous darkness, before Ethan reluctantly pointed out the time. We should head back before the tide changes. The return journey to Coral Cove was quieter, a comfortable silence between them as they processed the day's experiences. When they reached the resort dock, Sophia found herself lingering, unwilling to end their time together. Would you like to have dinner tomorrow night? Ethan asked as he helped her onto the pier. There's a place in St. George's that serves the best fish chowder on the island. Sophia hesitated only briefly. I'd love to. His smile was worth any professional boundary she might be crossing. Their dinner in St. George's expanded her understanding of both Bermuda and Ethan. The historic town, with its narrow streets and centuries-old buildings, provided a perfect backdrop for their growing connection. Over bowls of the promised fish chowder, rich with local catch and a hint of Bermudian black rum, Ethan shared stories of his childhood on the island, his complex relationship with his heritage, and his vision for sustainable tourism. Sophia found herself reciprocating with tales of her own travels, the challenges of building her career, and her passion for capturing the essence of a place through her lens. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by laughter and moments of deeper understanding. After dinner, they strolled through the lamplit streets, eventually finding themselves at Tobacco Bay, a small beach near the town. The night was warm, the sky ablaze with stars rarely visible in the cities where Sophia typically worked. Would you like to swim? Ethan asked impulsively. Sophia laughed. I'm hardly dressed for it. Neither am I. But the water is perfect and there's no one else around. He kicked off his shoes, a challenge in his eyes. Perhaps it was the influence of the Bermudian rum, or the magic of the starlit night, but Sophia found herself nodding. They left their shoes and outer clothes on the beach, venturing into the warm water in their undergarments. The phosphorescence in the shallows surrounded them with tiny lights that mirrored the stars above. Sophia had never experienced anything so enchanting, both the natural phenomenon and the company with which she shared it. When Ethan drew her into his arms, their bodies luminous in the magical water, his kiss seemed inevitable. His lips were soft against hers, slightly salty from the sea, and Sophia responded with a passion that surprised her. His arms tightened around her waist as the kiss deepened, and for a moment, the rest of the world ceased to exist. Later, as they sat on the beach wrapped in Ethan's linen shirt and watched the midnight tide recede, Sophia acknowledged the unexpected turn her assignment had taken. What had begun as a professional opportunity had evolved into something far more personal. I leave in 10 days, she murmured, giving voice to the reality that shadowed their budding romance. Ethan tucked a strand of damp hair behind her ear. Then we'll make each day count. The remaining days of Sophia's stay unfolded with dual purpose. Mornings and afternoons were dedicated to her assignment, capturing the essence of Bermuda's sustainable luxury offerings. Evenings and stolen afternoons belonged to Ethan, who introduced her to his beloved island as only a local could. They explored hidden beaches accessible only by boat, dined in local restaurants far from the tourist path, and spent a memorable afternoon with Ethan's mother, who welcomed Sophia with warmth while sharing embarrassing stories of her son's youth. On Sophia's final Sunday, Ethan took her sailing on a friend's small yacht. They navigated the island's perimeter, stopping in secluded coves to swim and picnic. As the day drew to a close, they anchored in a quiet bay to watch the sunset. "I have a proposal," Ethan said as they sat on the deck, sharing a bottle of wine. Sophia's heart skipped nervously before he continued. "My foundation is expanding its educational program. We're looking for a photographer to document the reef ecosystems for a conservation book aimed at schools and tourists." He watched her reaction carefully. "The project would take about 3 months. You're offering me a job?" "More of a collaboration. Your name would be featured prominently, and all proceeds would support reef conservation efforts." He took her hand. "It would also give us time to see if what we've found here has the potential to grow into something deeper." Sophia's mind raced. The offer was professionally intriguing and personally tempting. 3 months in Bermuda with Ethan, contributing to a meaningful project while exploring their connection. "What about my magazine commitments? I have assignments scheduled for the next few months." "The project wouldn't start until autumn. You'd have time to fulfill your existing obligations and make arrangements for an extended stay." He squeezed her hand gently. "I'm not asking for a decision now, just consider it." Sophia leaned forward and kissed him softly. "I'll consider it." The night they spent anchored in the bay, wrapped in each other's arms beneath the stars, felt both like a beginning and a farewell. Whatever decision Sophia ultimately made, their connection had irrevocably changed them both. On her final morning in Bermuda, Sophia rose early to photograph the sunrise from her balcony. The pink-tinged light bathed the island in a rosy glow that seemed to echo the warmth in her chest when she thought of Ethan. He was waiting at the dock when she arrived with her luggage. The Sea Whisper prepared for the journey back to Hamilton, where she would catch her flight to Boston. Their goodbye at the airport was bittersweet. Ethan held her close, his face buried in her hair. "Think about the offer," he murmured. "Whatever you decide, these 2 weeks have been the best of my life." Sophia touched his cheek gently. "I'll call you when I land." As her plane climbed above the clouds, Sophia watched Bermuda recede beneath her, the turquoise waters, the pink beaches, the lush green interior all growing smaller until they disappeared from view. But the island's impression remained vividly with her, as did the memory of Ethan's smile and the promise of what might be. 3 days later, ensconced in her Boston apartment with her editor praising the preliminary photographs from her Bermuda assignment, Sophia made her decision. The Autumn Conservation Project would provide professional growth while allowing her to explore the most unexpected and precious discovery of her trip: the possibility of love with a man who had found his purpose in protecting paradise. Some journeys, Sophia reflected as she dialed Ethan's number, carried you much further than the physical distance traveled. Her assignment to photograph Bermuda had led her not only to a beautiful island but to a crossroads in her own life. And for the first time in years, she was choosing a path not dictated by career ambition alone, but by the tide of emotion that had swept through her heart on a distant shore. "Ethan," she said when he answered, her voice steady with certainty, "I've been thinking about your proposal." The future stretched before them like the endless Bermudian horizon, full of possibility, adventure, and the promise of shared discovery. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would navigate them together, guided by the same stars that had witnessed their first kiss in the phosphorescent waters of Tobacco Bay.